Hello, everyone. We have a case. Someone serving 20 years for manslaughter. He's up for parole. After the hearing, we'll go over the docket. I have it, all the details, so we'll be able to match up the story, what we learned here at the hearing, and then what's in the actual court docket. So with that, let's jump in. And also, please do like and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. Thanks.
All right, Renee, ready for our next case? Please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
Good morning, my name is Michael Haywood, 414-026.
All right, Michael, my name is Brennan Kelsey. Along with me is Miss Bonnie Jackson and Mr. Pete Freeman will be your panel. We'll ask you some questions. You can respond. At the end, you can make a statement. We'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
And we have some folks that'll be speaking today in support. Tammy Meredith, Toya Haywood, Lanika Haywood, who won't be speaking. In opposition, we'll have Ms. Pamela David not speaking, Ms. Anitra Johnson, who will be speaking, and Elaine Wilson, who will be speaking. At the appropriate time, we'll allow everybody to have an opportunity to speak. Michael Haywood, DOC number 414-026. You're a second-class offender. Parole eligibility date 1/28/2014. Not eligible for good time. Full term date 1/29/2024. You have a 20-year sentence, and you are for manslaughter. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had a last parole hearing. Was that in when was that? That was 2019, right? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, please answer Mr. Freeman's question.
Okay, Mr. Haywood, how old are you?
I'm all right. How you doing today?
How old are you?
Oh, I'm 40, sir.
Okay. And how long have you been in jail on this sentence?
18 years and 10 months.
Okay. What's your education level, Mr. Haywood?
11th grade.
Okay, have you got your GED since you've been in prison?
I haven't met the requirement. Every time I take the test, I failed it.
But you have attempted to get it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me what led up to this conflict. I mean, what led up to this conflict with Mr. Hart?
Well, my stupidity. I was young, wasn't thinking. Just took the wrong route in life and made a big mistake. And I shouldn't have did it.
So Mr. Hart, he wasn't even the guy that owed you the money, was he?
No, sir.
But yet the other guy said he had the money, so you tried to take it from him. And tell me what happened. I mean, how did Mr. Hart die?
Well, I was arguing with the other guy, and he jumped in and tried to jump in from the side and grab me, and the gun went off, and coincidentally, he was tragically murdered that day. My stupidity, just not thinking, sir.
Were you ever on drugs at the time this offense occurred?
Yes, sir.
What kind of drugs were you on?
Cocaine and marijuana.
Okay. How old were you when you started using drugs?
16, 17.
Okay. There's been mainly cocaine and marijuana?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I see you have 2 children. You have any contact with your children?
Yes, sir.
And how often do you speak with them?
Every so often, every time I get a chance to call home.
Okay. I see you had a supervision for possession of crack cocaine. That one was revoked. And also you own, were you on supervision when this occurred?
No, sir. I don't believe so. No.
I'm looking at your convictions and some of your charges. Some of them you wasn't convicted, but you had a first-degree robbery. Tell me about that. What happened there in 1997?
Me and my friend was hanging out and things were kind of crazy. It wasn't really a robbery. It was put as a robbery. It was something that was taken from us, and we took it back from them, and it just went. We got booked with the charge of first-degree robbery.
And I saw you had a charge of aggravated kidnapping and armed robbery. It was dismissed. What was that about? That was in 2001.
That was a false charge on me. That one. That's why I was dismissed. The lawyer's case was dismissed. That was a false charge with false accusations. There wasn't no kidnapping, no robbery involved.
Okay. All right. You have the superintendent is against you getting parole. The victim, Mr. Albert Hart Sr., is opposed. But his sister is also opposed, and Miss Pamela David, his sister, is opposed. How long have you been in the Steve Hall program?
Since February 22nd.
When would you be completed with that program?
December 16th.
You have a low risk. Ward, do you have any comments? Has he had any write-ups?
No, Your Honor, he hasn't had any write-ups while he's been here with us at Bossier.
Okay. Mr. Murphy, how's he doing in the program?
Sir, Mr. Haywood is completing all his treatment plan needs. He has completed all of his risk management, phase 1s and 2s, his living and balance 1s and 2s, victim awareness. He's currently on track to finish his anger management, strengthen families. Again, he's progressing very well within our program, sir.
Okay. What could be your sobriety plan if you get out, Mr. Haywood? What do you think it could take? Do you consider yourself a drug addict? First off.
At one point I did. No, I don't. I know I have to focus on life and get myself together. So I can't go back out there doing the same thing that led me to the situation right now. Because I heard a lot of people along the path. And I can't be a destructive person no more.
Well, how are you gonna stay off drugs? What are you gonna do to make yourself stay off the drugs?
I'm gonna be a productive, give me a job, be a productive member, be a father to my kids, a grandfather to my grandparents.
You don't think you need the AA or stuff like that?
I don't need it, but if it's required for me to take it, I would do anything I have to do to stay out of prison.
Well, you know, Mr. Haywood, once you're a drug addict, you're always a drug addict. You're just recovering.
Right.
And it is a disease, so I thought you would have learned that by now out of the Steve Hall program. That's all the questions I have.
All right. We'll hear from Miss Tammy Meredith. Make a brief statement. Okay, go ahead. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm Michael Haywood's mother. Good morning. I'm not trying to minimize any position that my son is in at this time for taking someone's life. But also, I just want to say that he has full support from his family, his mom, his sisters, his brothers, grandchildren, and his children. I would do anything that I have to do within my power to get him the help and the necessary treatments that he may need and the guidance that he may need. I admit I wasn't a great mom when he was young, but I've learned from different mistakes that I've made in life to become the mother and grandmother that I am today, and to be able to be there and support Michael in everything that he has to look forward to. When he left, he was a young man. Now he's a grown and much older man. And I think he have learned from his mistakes. His mindset, his statements, all has changed, and he has matured since he been in there. My health is not as good as it used to be, and I haven't, physically seen him in over 10 years. And I'm hoping that you guys will give him an opportunity to come back out here in society and prove that he can be a great asset to the society. With every help that his family can give him, we are in full support of it. And like I said, it doesn't minimize anything that he done. My heart goes out to the young man's family. I also too lost a daughter, so I know what it's like to lose a child. So I'm not just saying that and being remorseful to them, not knowing how that feels.
All right, thank you so much for your comment. Toya Haywood now, you'd like to make a statement?
Yes. Hi, I'm Michael's sister. I just want to say, uh, I know there's no limit that you can put on the situation that happened or anything like that, but he served his time. His time was served, and being a victim of crime as well, I understand the feeling. I was shot 5 times, and I was away from my family. I didn't have anybody to come to me, to get to me, not knowing. And of course, calling home, he had to hear about me being shot, not knowing if I was going to live or survive, over a phone call. And as well as also losing my sister. I lost my sister to violence. And also Michael wasn't there to, be a part of that funeral. Like it's a lot. So I feel like the 20 years his sentence, he's been there 18 years and 10 months. And I just want him to come home.
All right, thank you so much for your comment. All right, we'll hear from Miss Elaine Wilson.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Albert Hart's mother, and I truly believe in my heart that Mr. Haywood needs to spend the time he have left, because my son is not able to come back and say he needs some more time to live, to be with me. So in my heart, and listen to him talking, I don't think he have learned anything at this time. So I truly believe in my heart that he needs to serve the rest of his time. And I understand what the family said about their loss and grief too, but it doesn't change the fact of what he did. If he did 10 years, he can do 8. If he did 18 years, he can do the other 2. My son don't have a choice. That's all I have.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Now, Miss Anitra, would you like to make a statement?
Yes, I would like to make a statement on behalf of my brother Albert Hart. I wanted to say I understand what the sister have to say, but at the same time, it's a blessing that they actually gonna see Michael in 2 years, but we will not. My brother have missed out on his 2 kids, his 2 beautiful kids that's doing well. They they graduated. He have one in the Navy. He have one in the Navy. I have grandkids. My brother never seen, even my son that I was pregnant with when my brother was murdered. So, I mean, I don't feel that he needs to get out before his time, because like my mother said, we don't have a choice. We have to live with this for the rest of our life. So, I mean, if he did, I understand he was young and everything, but I mean, if you do the crime, you have to be, mindful of the time that, the consequences. So I don't feel he needs to be released before his time.
All right, thank you so much for your comment. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. All right, Michael, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
I'd like to apologize to the family. for the pain I caused y'all. I was young at the time. I'm not only just an adult, I'm a mature adult now. I did a time. I was just blessed with this opportunity to be granted to come home early and get the help that I need to progress, to be a productive member of society. And if y'all can find in y'all hearts to forgive me, please do. I want that chance to show that I'm changed. So allow me to change.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Panel prepared to vote? Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Michael, it does alarm me that you don't consider yourself a drug addict, because I do consider you a drug addict. You know, you're in the Steve Hall program. I would have thought you'd have learned that by now. But the other thing I'm looking at is that you served almost 19 years. And I think you're going to need some supervision when you get out. And the only way to get you that supervision is if, you know, for the next year, you be on supervision. So my vote today is to be grant conditioned on you completing the Steve Hall program. And when you get out, you attend 3 AA meetings a week, and you have a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Ms. Jackson?
Fine. First, I'd like to say to the victim's family, I appreciate you all being here and sharing with us how you feel. I know that no word will ever take away the pain that you feel, but I do appreciate you being here. My vote today is going to be to grant Mr. his early release, because I do agree, if he stays there until his full term date, then he's done. State of Louisiana has no control over him unless he commits another crime. They can't make sure that he's following through on any treatment. They can't make sure that he's gainfully employed. They can't make sure he's doing anything to make sure that this doesn't happen, that he doesn't go back to that same thing. And so because I think he does need to be on supervision when you get there, I don't think you should get out without having somebody watching over his shoulder and making sure he's doing the things that he needs to do to stay out. My vote today is also going to be to vote to grant his early release so that he can transition out under supervision and just not walk away with no restrictions on him whatsoever. So my vote today would be to grant with the same conditions as Mr. Freeman.
All right, you have 2 votes to grant your parole. Also, I'm going to vote to grant your parole today. Completion in Steve Hall. You have a curfew from 9 p. to 6 a. You have NAA 3 times a week, no contact with the victim's family, and you report to your PO weekly, parole officer weekly for the first 90 days. You understand stipulations?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
3 votes to grant. Your parole's been granted. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's unpack that. I wonder if he's gonna wish that he wasn't let out early. You know, on the just the basis of it, and then we'll go over the court docket. But on the basis of it, it's he got just a 20-year sentence. That to me is really interesting, and I guess because all they did was prosecute him for manslaughter, and that's a manslaughter sentence. But we can read this over and see if we think it was something more than that. You know, I'm surprised it wasn't a 2nd-degree murder. Remember, it wasn't a plea deal. He went to trial, and a jury of 12, it says here, convicted him. So. And I don't know if they were seeking a 2nd degree and the jury just convicted him of, I don't think it works that way. I don't think you can seek a second degree and seek manslaughter. But I get why the board paroled him, because otherwise he's just going to get out. He served 18 years and 10 months of his 20-year sentence, so he has 14 months left, and they want to be able to give him supervision. But I got to tell you, we have seen many cases where they don't do this for whatever reason. They will just like not let them out early. So I don't know why sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. It's hard to really understand that. So anyways, let's go read this, and I'll also drop the link. And please do like and subscribe. The algorithm thing is real. Being a YouTube content, whatever we're called, all of a sudden you realize that when videos aren't liked, they get like shadow banned. Okay, so facts. At approximately 2:45 p.m. on January 11th, 2004, a 911 call was made to the police concerning a shooting in front of the address. Police responding to the call found the body of Albert Hart Jr. lying next to a truck in front of Building M in the apartment complex. Mr. Hart sustained a gunshot wound to his chest, a 9mm that was found with a 9mm shell found next to his body. An autopsy performed the next day revealed that he had died from a single gunshot wound that entered his left chest, passed through his aorta and his right lung, and exited the side near the back. Isn't it incredible that we hear stories like where it's one bullet and the person dies, and then, for example, his sister was shot 5 times, or 10 times, or 50, but his sister alone was shot 5, and just the luck that people need to get, the luck of where that bullet travels once it enters you. I can never. It's just so incredible. It's hard to understand how that stuff works. Detective Kathy Reinhardt testified that she investigated the shooting. She stated that a few days after the shooting, she met with Randy Mutton, who was an eyewitness to the shooting. Based upon a tip from another source, she compiled a photographic lineup which included the photo of the defendant, and she showed the lineup to Mr. Mutton, who was our witness, who by that time was incarcerated in Jefferson Parish for unrelated charges. Okay. She testified that Mr. Mutton chose the defendant's photograph as depicting the person who shot Mr. Hart. After the identification, she obtained an arrest warrant for the defendant and a search warrant for his residence, which was in Building M of 1401 Karen. Okay. Right in front of where Hart was murdered. Detective Reinhardt testified that although another eyewitness to the shooting, Albert Antoine, called her a few times to set up meetings, Mr. Antoine never showed up at the meetings, and consequently, she never spoke to him. She testified that in February 2004, she had Mr. Antoine arrested as a suspect in the shooting. Whoa. So this is what happened. The detective who was assigned to this case met with an eyewitness who was there but was locked up really just like a day later or a few days later, who then pointed that on the cards. So like, I'm not saying that he's innocent, but this does seem like a rake. Like, I don't know, what are the odds he's going to get locked up? And then they go to him and he was also a witness, and they say, now pick who it was. And then you have another witness who called the detective multiple times, but the detective never met him. And then she arrests that witness as a suspect. Again, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying this is part of his appeal. Let's keep in mind what we're reading is the defendant's appeal, so it will be written in a way that would cause one to ask the questions, to look back and say, whoa, what's going on here? Randy Mutton testified that he was Mr. Hart's friend, had spent the day with Mr. Hart prior to the shooting, and was Mr. Hart when he was murdered. Mr. Mutton testified that he and Mr. Hart had been together since that morning, driving around in Mr. Mutton's truck. Mr. Mutton admitted that he and Mr. Hart were intending to buy Pepsi Cola for resale, and Mr. Hart had $1,500 with him to make the purchase. Mr. Mutton testified that sometime around noon, they met Mr. Antoine at a gas station at Chef Mentor Highway and Dale Street, and they agreed to give Mr. Antoine a ride uptown. He stated that once uptown, Mr. Antoine left the truck briefly to meet with the man, and that he returned and got back in the truck. Mr. Mutton testified that Mr. Antoine then directed them to drive to the Curran Boulevard address. Okay, so a little bit in the weeds here, but like they said, remember, the victim was not even the one that owed him the money. Just okay. So Mr. Mutton stated after he parked the truck next to the abandoned car near Building M, Mr. Antoine left the truck and walked into a breezeway between two buildings. Soon thereafter, Mr. Antoine returned and Mr. Hart opened the truck door. He opened the door for Mr. Antoine. Suddenly, the defendant appeared with an automatic gun, the 9mm, which Mr. Mutton described as possibly a 9mm, and asked Mr. Antoine for $150 that he owed him. Mr. Antoine replied that he did not have the money, and the defendant then the defendant turned the gun on Mr. Hart, grabbed him, and pulled him from the truck. Mr. Mutton testified he saw the two men struggling for the gun as he exited the driver's side of the truck. He testified that he then saw the defendant shoot Mr. Hart. Mr. Mutton testified that he ducked down, and when he looked up again, the defendant was running away into the breezeway. Mr. Mutton testified that although he did not see the defendant going through Mr. Hart's pockets, he theorized that the defendant must have done so because the police later informed Hart's family that the $1,500 was gone. Again, that is leaving even more doubt to the story because I believe I could believe that whole situation. They got into a scuffle, he shot and ran away, but then I don't know if it was it's probably very well that he stole the money. He knew that his friend had the money in his pocket, and he saw an opportunity and took it. Like, that's definitely very possible. Mr. Mutton testified that he called the police and Mr. Hart's family, and he waited at the scene for the police to arrive. At that point, he went to Mr. Hart's house to pick up the victim's family and then returned to the scene. He did not, however, speak with the detective that night, but instead spoke to her 2 days later. At that time, he gave a statement. He testified that he had never seen the defendant prior to the shooting, but he positively identified the defendant from a photographic lineup. So maybe that's just why the prosecutors were seeking manslaughter, because I shouldn't say that it wasn't even, but the one man owed him money, another man who was in the truck with him, they got in the scuffle, one shot was fired and he ran away. Still not manslaughter. but it's like a weak case. So I guess they just wanted to go with the easiest. With the lowest hanging fruit. It does go on with a little bit more. Like the defense brought their own witness, who basically stated some things on the contrary, but that same witness reiterated that he was so intoxicated at the time that he couldn't even identify the gunman. All right, so feel free to check it out. I know it's like a lot of, but love to hear your thoughts on, when you have a case like this. And I guess maybe they offered him a plea deal that he just didn't want to accept, but then it went to court, and now we have a family that's missing a son. And man, it's just so much violence in this. We have in this one story, we have a killer of their son. We have his sister who was shot 5 times. Then her sister who's killed. It's just like we're like in a war zone. It's like I know we have a lot of viewers from other countries that watch this completely bewildered how it really seems that we live in a war zone in some of the cities in America. And it's true. In some of these cities, it's really dangerous. If you just Google it, it's like I think the first murder this year, it took 7 days for the first murder to happen in Louisiana. And some people might say, wow, that's pretty decent. Yeah, I'll add another video somewhere here. Maybe I'll add one to a case where the board didn't give that concession of keeping someone in parole. Instead, they kept them locked up to serve out the remaining like 6 months. And I asked, why would they do that? Why not put them under parole supervision? But they didn't. So again, I don't know why they do things sometimes and why they do it others. But with that, I'll let you go. Please do like and subscribe. Thank you.